We're going to do three things really quickly in this video. We are going to find a command we forgot, figure out how Copilot can help us do that. We're going to create a table from scratch, so we have basically text on the screen, and we're going to have Microsoft Copilot turn that into a table. And finally, we're going to add some visual elements to the table. So let's get started. So here we are in Microsoft 365 Copilot. Let's click on Document. And we're going to go ahead and open up a document. And once that opens up, I already have copied some content and I'm going to paste it in here. Now the content that I'm pasting in here are 5 commercial games that we can use for learning. So kind of exciting to see how this turns out. So now let's click on the Copilot icon. And what I want to do is I want to select everything. But let's say I can't remember how to select everything. I type, how do I select all text in document? And it's going to remind me of how I need to do that. So it's going to say, oh, okay, you need to Control A for a keyboard shortcut, or you could use your mouse, or you have a menu option. So I'm going to go back in here. Now you can't do it here. You have to go back into this document, Control A. That's going to select them. Then I'm going to click on this Copilot icon. We've got a lot of Copilot icons floating around, and quite simply visualize as a table. What this will do is take all of that content and then visualize it as a table. Now once it's created this table, I have some options. I can keep it or I can make changes right to the table. So I might say add a 4th column. That makes sense. Okay, and let's see what that does. Again, we hit this arrow. Always forget to hit the arrow. I always hit enter, but enter's not the right thing to do. It's hitting the arrow. And so now it comes back to my table and it added one called additional notes. And it has additional information about these particular games, which is kind of a nice thing to do. And I can even say something like shade every other row green. And let's see if it actually can shade my table. I hit generate and it's working on it, and let's see, it did. It shaded every other row green. So that's kind of nice if I want to very quickly shade my table and have it work, and I can say keep it and it will keep the table. So once I click keep it, it kind of cements the table, if you will, and allows me then to move on with my document. But I can still come back and make changes. Now here's another thing I can do. I have my table and I might want to select my table. So I've got that selected. I want to come to Copilot and maybe I wanted to add some icons to the table. Add some icons to the above table. And let's see what it does with that information. So it's going to go ahead and, of course, it always needs to think about it. And it's going to give me some icons in the table. So I quickly added some nice icons, and I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and say keep it. And it just added another little level to my table to make my table a little bit more interesting. Now, notice it did do away with the green shading. I find that once I have a table created and I go back and make the changes and I say, add icons or something like that, it has a lot of trouble remembering what it did before. So what I found is it makes sense to put your prompt in a specific order. So for example, I'm going to highlight all of this element. I'm going to make a table again. I'm going to click on the icon, visualize as a table. And rather than kind of piecemeal, oh, I want shading and I want icons. If you know what you want, you can do it right away. So I've created a prompt, and the prompt basically says, I started with the table. I said add an icon to each table to represent each game. So here we have add an icon to represent each game in the game column, and then shade every other row green. And then I said add a logical 4th column. So I want to think logically and sequentially, and you should too. Sometimes it doesn't always work, and you have to change the order of what you're doing in your prompt to make it make sense. Sometimes it mixes and mingles and does some strange things. But I found that giving it specific instructions, as specific as possible, giving it in a specific order. So sometimes you change the order doesn't always work, but here we go. We've got the icons, we have the information here, and let's see, we can even, let's say, change green shading to blue. And let's see if that works as well. Again, the more you can do before you actually cement the table and then try to go back and change the table, that becomes a little bit more difficult. As long as you're in, I find, in this mode before, it works pretty well. And you can see every other, if I say keep it, you're going to see there's our table. It's got our icons. It's got our fourth column. It's got our player age group and different colors. So that works pretty well.